Is the ancient world had the right attitude to this kind of thing,
Yeah.
and the modern world does not, and that we can sit down and learn a lot from the ancient world.
The Sahara Desert is a huge desert in Africa. It's mostly made of sand and dunes. It's one of the driest places on Earth, which makes it hard for plants and animals to live there. Because it's so big and dry, not many people have explored all of it. There are still many parts of the Sahara that people haven't seen or studied much. This means there could be secrets or interesting things hidden in the desert that we don't know about yet. What could be hidden under the sand of the Sahara Desert? A long time ago, when the Earth was much colder during the Ice Age, the Sahara Desert was not a desert. Instead, it had a lot of water with rivers and lakes, and it looked very different from how we see it today. After the Ice Age ended, the water went away, and the Sahara turned into a big, sandy desert. Even though the Sahara is very big, and mostly just sand and rocks now, it is a very special place for archaeologists. They think that there might be very old secrets hidden under the sand. Some people believe that there were ancient civilizations. These people might have built things or left behind clues about how they lived. The Nubian civilization. The Nubian civilization was a group of people who lived a very long time ago in what is now Sudan and southern Egypt. This was about 2000 BCE to 350 CE, which is thousands of years ago. The Nubians were really good at building, and they had a rich culture with their own art, music, and way of life. They lived near the Nile River, which was great for them because it helped them grow food and travel to trade with other people. The Nubians were known for having a lot of gold, and they traded things like ivory, incense, and ebony, which are special kinds of wood and smells that were very valuable. One of the most interesting things about the Nubians is that they built their own pyramids, just like in Egypt, but a bit different. Their pyramids were smaller and had steeper sides. They used these pyramids as tombs for their kings and queens. There were different periods in Nubian history, like the Kingdom of Kerma, the Napatan period, and the Meroitic period. During these times, they built big cities and had powerful leaders. They even had a time when Nubian kings ruled over Egypt. The Nubians were really important in history because of their trade networks and their influence in the region. Garamantes civilization. The Garamantes civilization was a group of smart and creative people who lived a long time ago in the Sahara Desert, around the area that is now southwestern Libya. They were there from about 500 BCE to 700 CE. Even though the Sahara is a really dry and tough place to live, the Garamantes figured out how to make it work for them. They were great at farming and knew how to find and use water in the desert. They built special systems to collect and move water, which helped them grow food and keep their animals healthy. This was really clever because it's not easy to grow things in a place as dry as the Sahara. The Garamantes also built cities with organized streets, showing that they knew a lot about planning and building. They even had strong walls and defenses to protect their cities. Inside these cities, they made beautiful things like pottery and jewelry. One of the most interesting things about the Garamantes is how they traded with other people. They had connections with big empires like Rome and traded with places as far away as Egypt and sub-Saharan Africa. This made them an important part of ancient trade networks. They also left behind fancy tombs, which tell us that they had a rich culture and believed in an afterlife. These tombs were filled with things that give us clues about their lives and what they believed in. Overall, the Garamantes were really good at adapting to their environment and making the most of what they had. They turned a tough place like the Sahara into a home where they could live, grow, and be a part of the bigger world. Tassili in Adjer. Tassili in Adjer is a very special place in Algeria, in the Sahara Desert. It's famous for having lots of old rock art, which are drawings and paintings on rocks. These artworks are very old, some even 12,000 years old. That means they were made by people who lived a very long time ago. This place isn't just a desert. It has big sandstone cliffs, deep valleys, and places where the rocks make natural shelters. These rock shelters are where you find the ancient art. The pictures show different things like people, animals, and scenes of everyday life long ago. You can see images of hunting, dancing, and even some rituals. What's really interesting is how the art changed over time. At first, the pictures were mostly about wild animals and hunting, but later they started to show things like cows and goats, which means the people began to keep animals instead of just hunting them. Archaeologists have also found tools and pottery in Tassili N'Ajjer. This tells us that people lived there for a very long time and how they changed from hunter-gatherers to farmers and animal herders. To protect this amazing place, Tassili N'Ajjer was named a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1982. This is important because it helps look after the rock art and make sure it doesn't get damaged. But keeping it safe is hard. The art is outside, so wind and rain can wear it away. Plus, too many tourists walking around can also harm the paintings. So Tassili Najar is like a big outdoor museum in the desert. It shows us pictures of life from a long time ago and helps us learn about how people lived back then. Fossil discoveries. As mentioned earlier, in the past, the Sahara Desert wasn't a desert at all. It was full of life, with rivers and lakes and lots of different plants and animals. But how do we know this? Well, scientists have found fossils in the Sahara. Fossils are like nature's way of keeping a record. They are the remains or impressions of plants, animals, and other organisms from the past. In the Sahara, they found fossils of fish, shells, and even plants. This is very interesting because these kinds of fossils usually mean that there was water around. The fact that there are so many of them tells us that the Sahara used to have rivers, lakes, and maybe even big seas. This is a big deal because it's hard to imagine the Sahara, which is now a dry, sandy desert, being a place full of water and life. The condition of these fossils is really good too. This is because they got buried quickly under sand and dirt, which protected them from weather and other things that could have destroyed them. Scientists can also figure out how old these fossils are, and their studies show that the Sahara's environment has changed a lot over millions of years. The interesting thing is that these fossils are found all over the Sahara. This means that the whole area once had lots of water and different kinds of environments. By looking at the fossils, scientists can learn about what kinds of plants and animals lived in those places and what the climate was like. Apart from fossils, scientists also use something called isotope analysis. This is like detective work, where they study certain elements in the rocks and sand to learn about the past climate. Historical misconceptions with and discoveries. In history, sometimes what we think we know isn't always right. New discoveries can change our understanding of the past. One big example is the Great Sphinx of Giza in Egypt. For a long time, people thought it was about 4,500 years old. But then, some new ideas came up that maybe it's even older than that. This is because the weathering, how the Sphinx has been worn down by wind and rain over time, looks more like it was caused by water, not just wind and sand. Since it hasn't rained much in that area for a very long time, this could mean the Sphinx is much older than we thought. Another example is Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. This place is really special because it's very old, about 11,600 years old. Before Göbekli Tepe was discovered, people thought that big, complicated buildings like this couldn't have been made so long ago. But Göbekli Tepe proved them wrong. It shows that people back then were able to build big things and probably had more advanced societies than we used to think. Global climate context. The Sahara Desert's story is not just about sand and heat. It's also about the whole Earth's history and how the climate can change. A long time ago, the Sahara was very different. It had lakes, rivers, and lots of animals and plants. But over time, the Earth's climate changed, and so did the Sahara. It went from being a green, wet place to the dry desert we see today. Scientists have learned this by studying things like fossils, which are the remains of plants and animals that lived long ago. They found fossils of fish and shells in the Sahara, which tell us that there used to be water there. They also use special science tricks like looking at different types of atoms in the sand and rocks, isotope analysis, to learn about the old weather and environment. These changes in the Sahara are part of bigger changes in the Earth's climate. The whole planet has gone through times when it was much colder, like ice ages, and times when it was warmer. The Sahara's changes are a big clue to understanding these big climate changes. So the Sahara story is really a story about how our planet can change a lot over time. We hope you found these facts intriguing. If you've heard them before or have any thoughts to share, please let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to A World to Discover to join us on our journey of discovery.